Hey, everybody, haven't seen you for a while. Well, you haven't seen me for a while, but I wanted to give you plenty of time to focus on your research, get your research plan in place, and be able to meet with a librarian or a tutor if necessary. So today I want to talk a little bit about engaging the opposition. So you should have an opposition source that you put on your research plan. But beyond that, I want you to think about how other perspectives can change your ideas or can enrich your ideas. So, one thing that's tough is if you've chosen a topic that you don't think many people disagree with. But if that's the case, then your topic probably is not arguable enough to be a paper. So, when you choose a topic like um let's see. Let's pretend the topic is museum programming. There's my dog in the background. Museum programming. So, hold on, my dog is like, come on up here. It's okay. 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 So, anyway, let's pretend the topic is museum programming. And we want to argue that museum programming should be accessible to the entire community. Well, my first thought for opposition is why would anyone oppose that idea, right? Like museums are supposed to give social programming. So the opposition might be we don't have enough money to advertise to the entire community. Or your opposition might be simply that museums already are accessible to the community. So then your job is to argue that um, they need to do more work in that area. So often the opposition is not necessarily the exact opposite of what you're arguing. It's something that stands in the way of your argument like coming true. So think about that claim of policy. Like, what do you want to propose at the end of your paper? Um, that can be a call to action, like what should be done to fix the problem that you are talking about in your paper. And when you're thinking about what should be done, that's when you think, okay, who's going to stand in my way or what's going to stand in my way for this particular thing that I would like to get done. And that's your opposition. So when you're thinking about opposition, like the terms that we usually associate with opposition is your claim and your position, like your thesis statement. All of those words mean the same thing. Counter argument, which is the opposition. Concession, which is where you may agree with part of the opposition. So when you're reading articles that are argumentative or you're even speaking to someone in an argumentative manner, you might say, while I agree that this point is true, I also think this, or I think that point needs to go further and be this. The other thing I wanted to point out is use of qualifiers. We've talked about this before. You want to be careful about using absolute language like this never happens, or no one experiences this, or everyone experiences this. You can only argue those things if you feel they're true. Otherwise, you're going to use qualifiers like most people, or some people, or many people. Those kind of qualifiers are going to indicate how much your argument can or cannot be true. Okay. Another example of a qualifier is something like instead of saying this is not true, you could say it may not be true or it should not be true. Those two things have very different meanings that you would want to articulate in your paper. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, this lecture is going to be brief so that you can go off and do your interview assignment and then enjoy Thanksgiving next week if you celebrate Thanksgiving. If you are on Blackboard, get in the assignments and exams folder and take a look at the interview assignment. So typically during this time, I assign either like an opposition assignment or some sort of bridge assignment that bridges your research plan to your paper. And this semester, I've chosen an interview. I think it's going to be important for you to actually speak to someone who's an expert on your topic, and they can be an expert in the opposition or they can be an expert on your side. It's really up to you who you want to pick. Examples of experts would be professors, legislators, teachers, librarians, people who have a job that's associated with your topic. So, for example, a lot of you are interested in police brutality and the corrupt system. So, interviewing a police officer would be a great idea to get some really good information for your paper. If you are interested in Black Lives Matters, perhaps you'd like the perspective of a white person and you'd like to interview them. If you're doing gun control and you are arguing that New York State is too strict on gun control, perhaps you want to find someone who disagrees with your point of view and interview them. Those are always really fun interviews. On the other side, you can choose someone who is an expert that is on, that shares your own opinion. So, for example, if you're doing, well, even with the police brutality, you could interview a police officer, and I'm sure they'll probably verbally be on your side, right? So, you want to ask them some challenging questions. Um, you might interview one of your parents if you feel like they are an expert in your area. One thing you want to avoid is interviewing friends or anyone who does not have some sort of like statable expertise in the topic area that you've chosen. So the interview has to be someone with some sort of ethos, right, that you can identify. The interview obviously is not in person because of COVID. So I would like you to try to FaceTime, Teams, Skype. Face to face is preferable for the interview. I mean, face to face digitally is preferable, but if you can't do that, a simple phone call or email is fine. Um, Email is probably the least preferable just because you're not going to have any conversational interaction with the person. It's literally going to be them answering your questions, which I would prefer you to have a conversation with your interview person. So, in the assignments and exams folder, you'll see that the interview assignment is due on Monday, November 23rd. It says you will now complete some primary research as a way to build background on your topic. So, primary research is where you yourself, you've built your argument and you are going out to do research on your own. You're not going on a database or something like that. You're going to do it on your own, which is why it's called primary research. It's also one of the most strong, most effective ways to do research is going out and doing it on your own. So that was another aspect of this course I thought that you would enjoy. Okay, you will complete an interview with an expert on your topic. This requires preliminary research. Who will you interview and why? What are his or her credentials? It also requires preparation of questions and conversation points. I'd like you to ask at least 7 questions to your interview person. Consider talking to your source about their target audience and their profession, talking about other sources you could use in your research paths. So, for example, if you are talking to a legislator, you might ask them for some suggestions for research for you. You might want to ask them about their education and career path. So, if you're talking to a police officer, that would be an important aspect of the topic, right? Is to ask them why they wanted to be a police officer, what challenges they've had in their field, um, how do they feel about the political and social situation right now? Be comfortable asking challenging questions, but also be respectful at the same time. Like I said, this does require a little bit of planning ahead. So I would recommend trying to choose your expert today, November 19th, and contact them today to say like, hey, I'm doing an interview. Would you be interested in helping me with that? So just establishing that contact. And then also plan with your interview person how you're going to actually do the interview. If you're going to like do it on Zoom or whatever. So the actual assignment is like to do the interview, but obviously I'm not going to be there. I don't need a recording of it. You don't need to write down every single word that the person says. All I need from you is a brief explanation of why you chose your primary source as an expert and type a one-page summary of the interview, including what you learned and any reflection you have. You can use anything from this interview in your paper. I'm hoping that this strengthens your research path and your arguments and also helps you find some new perspectives within your topics. So again, this is due November 23rd. This is not a paper assignment. It's going to be under the general homework assignments grade. So, sorry, my dog is barking. Hold on one second.
No, okay. He cannot be barking right now.
I'm at home because I've been at home for all my lectures, I think, that I've posted here, but my son was contact traced. So he's doing school in the other room and I'm doing school and work in here. So anyway, that's what I have for today. If you have any questions, please reach out. I've been corresponding with a lot of you over email. Next week, to kind of give you some time and also to talk to me, you can email me for an appointment time and we can meet over Zoom or FaceTime. Or Teams or FaceTime is probably my preferred way to get together. So if you're interested in that next week, my working time is going to be reserved for talking to students face to face digitally. So please let me know if you're interested in that, and I'd be happy to set up a time to meet with you and talk through your paper and anything that, any concerns or anything you have like that. Okay, I will post this and talk to you later. Bye.